Are we live? We are live. Hello, Cascadia. We're going to start another round, another session. Just queuing you up so you can kindly migrate your conversations or wrap them so that we get into our second afternoon session for the day, where we're going to talk about regenerative businesses. So don't go anywhere, stay around. Let's talk regenerative businesses. We just need about 2 minutes to set the stage, and then we'll be here together for fun presentations. Mike, you want to just be here? Okay. We have a clicker. Do you need anything else up here? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll move off the stage. I think I'll just introduce you, and then you're here and we swap, and I'll just sit right there. Okay, great. Okay, everyone, I think that we are going to settle into the space and get ready to give presenters our full inspired attention. So this break particularly, this next segment is going to be examples of regenerative businesses, and I'm really excited to invite to the stage first, what are community development financial institutions and how are they helping cooperative economies with Mike Sow. So we're gonna welcome you to the stage here, sir, for your presentation. Thank you so much. Let's give him a round, welcome him nicely.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike. I'm from Seattle. Um, I was born in Chicago, but I moved to Korea, Seoul, South Korea, when I was 5, and I came to Seattle 5 years ago. So, yeah. And I'm a portfolio manager at Shared Capital Co-ops. We are a community development financial institution that only invests into co-ops of any kind, ranging from housing co-op, worker co-op, food co-op, farmers co-op, you name any co-op, we would invest there. So today I'm going to talk about what is CDFI and how we are helping co-ops. So CDFI is a certification from Department of Treasury. So it is given to some mission-oriented investment fund. And there are 1,400 CDFIs in United States. And unlike BOA or Chase, we gotta be very mission-oriented. So we gotta financing some project that conventional financier doesn't invest into. Also, we gotta be affordable. We cannot charge like obscene amount of interest rate. And also, we really have to have well-defined, very specific community development strategic plans. So we are not doing this like haphazardly. And also, we, in addition to giving just money, we are supposed to provide some technical assistance, just something like helping the borrower like refine their business plan or helping them do more like finance planning. And then lastly, we gotta have some board members who are actually from the community that we're trying to serve. So we always like listen to our board members about their opinion. So you may ask like how we are actually like mission oriented, how actually we are helping communities. So every year we should renew our certification by proving that like last year we made at least 60% of our total investment into either of these three. So the first is the geographical area that is dilapidated, and the second one is the population group, racially marginalized groups, and the third one is people with low income. So we gotta prove that at least 60% of our investment directed to these groups. So I would say we are very mission oriented, but you may still ask, like, are you actually helping communities? Probably not, because we have upstream investors to us, and we are borrowing money from them, let's say 2%, and we are re-lending their money at 6%. So that spread between 2% and 6%, that is going to our operation, like paying us our salary. And sometimes we are paying ourselves too much. So some CDFI, if you look at their CEO salary, is like over 500K a year, which is doesn't make sense. So like we being an intermediary and we are middlemen, so if you think about any sort of middleman, that's kind of symbol of inefficiency. So we are not doing this in the most efficient way. And also, if you look at who those are the upstream investor, so they can be foundation, they can be impact investor, but mostly they are big banks. And you may ask, like, why big bank bother to invest to CDFI? That's because they have to comply with this Community Reimbursement Act, CRA. So they gotta reinvest their profit into the community where they operate their branches, but they don't know nothing about communities, so they invest into CDFIs, and CDFI as an intermediary, they invest their money to community while the big banks getting credit for satisfying that CRA Act. So again, I would say, like, we are actually delivering impact to the community. We are helping the borrowers, but we are not doing it in most efficient, most ethical way. So for example, like, let's say Wells Fargo invests into CDFI, and if you think about Wells Fargo, they did a lot of harms to the community. They did have some fraudulent mortgage practice, which they still paying fine for. So, but by getting their money, and we are now giving them some opportunity to clean their reputation, inviting them to ribbon cutting, giving them some bragging rights. So we are kind of helping Wells Fargo. So I would say, I personally say, we are still helping people, but not in the most efficient and ethical way. So it's just like trying to be transparent about ourselves. So we do notice this, and we're trying to get better. So we're trying to get away from big institutional money. So we're starting to offer more like non-institutional fundraising approaches. So we are offering some debt and equity investment opportunity to both accredited and non-accredited investors. So the minimum can be as low as $50. So if you have a $50 in your pocket, you may invest into a CDFI, and you let them invest into community project, and the return can be as high as 5%, which is not that high, but which is not that low either. And some of the notes are rated as a AA, which is kind of investable grade by conventional rating agency like S&P, so which means kind of is safe. So enough about CDFI drama. Let's talk about co-ops. So co-op is a simply ownership structure where multiple humans own some entity together. So if tenants own a building together, that's a housing co-op. And if employees own the business together instead of CEO, that's a worker co-op. And if hikers owning a outdoor gear shop together, that's REI, the consumer co-op. So the guiding principle is one person, one vote. So regardless of like how much share each individual holds for the entity, the one head count is one vote. So that ensures democratic governance. So for example, REI members just voted to reject 3 board members whose background is more like conventional finance. So that kind of shows that this kind of democratic governance can be really powerful and effective. And the other guiding principle is profit sharing. So if there is a year-end operational surplus, that will be redistributed to the members, not the investor or outside stakeholders. So co-op can be a really good community development tool. So because of these 3 reasons. So the first is again profit sharing. So whenever there is a profit, it's gonna be going back to the pocket of the member, not to the absentee investors. And also, the members can benefit from asset building opportunity because you own the asset. So whenever there is a selling action, whenever there is a price appreciation, and whenever there is some um, capital event, you can benefit from by having your own asset. And then also, not to mention, you are controlling that asset, so you can decide the future of this entity, not the other like CEO or other outsiders. So, like we just talked about, it is so good mechanism, but why there are not many co-ops, like you only see only few, that's because nobody want to invest into co-ops. So JP Morgan Chase would never invest into co-ops because they cannot get personal guarantee from this co-op because by definition, co-op has a multiple owners. And if JP Morgan trying to get a personal guarantee and they cannot figure out whom to go after to put the personal guarantee on, so they just entirely giving up on investing into co-ops. And also like CDFI who are supposedly mission driven, but out of 1,400 CDFIs, there are only 5 CDFI actively invest into co-ops. So money is not coming to co-op field. And also government, their support is very negligible, even though co-op is delivering similar impact as high as nonprofits, but government is always just focusing on nonprofit, not co-ops. And also you and I, still don't know much about co-ops. So when we think about co-ops, it's still very like spiritual, like vegan cheese, kombucha, all that. But we never relate co-op with some legitimate community development vehicle. So there is some awareness problem too. So let me talk about how my company is doing this, and I really want to talk about how we are capitalized first. So we are one and only CDFI that is structured as a co-op. So we are owned by 300 co-ops in the nation. So they own us, meaning that they buy share of us, and also they sometimes reinvest their surplus to us so that we can re-lend their money to other future forthcoming co-ops. So it's kind of circulating co-op money inside of co-op ecosystem and help grow ourselves. So that's a big chunk of our capital stack. And also we attract a lot of like outside investors too using Regulation A. So we are offering some debt and equity investment product to accredited and non-accredited investors. So minimum is $500, which is low compared to other investment products offered by other financial institutions. So if you have a $500, please invest it to us. And also, we are getting some investment and grant and PRI from foundation, program-related investment from foundations. And also, we are getting grant from our regulator, Department of Treasury. So because we have this diversified, so we don't have any money from Wells Fargo, and we have this diversified capitalization stack. So we don't have any like geographical or programmatic restriction regarding like where to invest, how to invest, what to invest. So we can invest into any kind of co-ops anywhere in the United States. And then we can have also very flexible, non-extractive underwriting criteria. So we are not asking for any personal guarantee. We never question about credit score. And we are really like flexible around collateral so that we can serve like diverse range of our borrowers. And again, because we are co-op of cooperatives, our underwriting decision is made by our invest committee. So as a staff, I don't have any decision authority to decide whether to invest into this co-op or that co-op. So I'm just meeting future borrowers and help them refine their business cases. And we are pitching the case to our investment committee. And invest committee made a decision. an invest committee is composed of co-ops. So who used to be our borrower, who are our current borrower, and who will be our borrower. So it's kind of borrower helping borrower kind of self-help model. So it's kind of very truly democratic. And then if our fund has a profit at the year end, the profit is redistributed to our current borrower who pay the interest over the course of last year. So the dividend is paid back to the borrower in the format of kind of interest rebates. So it's kind of lending circle, like you borrow this time, I borrow next time, and I help you about, yeah. So we are on that model. So let me talk about like what kind of project we financed so far. So this is the community solar garden that we invest in Twin City, Minnesota, that is cooperatively owned by subscribers. So subscribers kind of decide like how they can operate the solar garden together. And we invest into this worker-owned solar panel installer. So we help the workers buy out the business from the sole proprietor, the original owner, and they convert them into worker-owned companies. So they collectively make the decision together, and they share the profit together. So we gave them this conversion money. And we do have significant footprint in Pacific Northwest too. So they are Hmong Farmers Co-op. So we gave them some working capital. So they are a producer co-op, about 10, 15 Hmong growers come together and they form a co-op, and they collectively own some vehicle and greenhouse together so that they can produce things in the wintertime too. And also we invest into this producer co-op too. They are actually here in Georgetown, Seattle Wholesale Grower Market. So growers in Pacific Northwest, they come together and they collectively own this physical space where they can have a direct access to wholesale market. And then we also invest into this food co-op, Central Food Co-op. They have a branch in Seattle and Tacoma. So I briefly want to talk about how we can build more conducive ecosystem for cooperative funding. So the first thing can be, so we are, as you just saw, we are financing food and agricultural producer co-op and consumer co-op. And the success of these co-ops are highly dependent on individual growers' well-being, because individual growers, they are member of the producer co-op and they are providing supply to consumer co-op. So we are always looking for a funder partner who can finance these individual growers. So for example, Hmong Farmers Co-op, we finance the umbrella co-op, but the individual member of Hmong farmers, they still need to borrow some money to sustain their own individual operation. But again, not many funders want to finance that kind of small farm. So we are always on the lookout for the funder who are willing to finance those kind of small time farmers who are member of co-ops or who supply products to consumer co-ops. So similarly, like let's say we finance a eco-village or housing co-op in rural area in Washington State or Portland or Oregon. So we can finance the co-op as a blanket mortgage, so that the co-op, the entity, they can buy out the building or they can buy out the land. But we cannot finance the individual members for them to buy out the share of housing co-op. So to join the housing co-op, you gotta buy share, which can be sometimes 100K. So you gotta borrow some money from some bank or other institution to buy the share, but not many banks, especially in the West Coast, they are willing to finance this kind of housing share. So we are looking for some funder who can finance this kind of share for individual member who are trying to join the housing co-op. And lastly, we are also looking for some intentional like investor, financier who are investing into, while they're investing into um, some community project, but we are looking for that funder. We want that funder to kind of put some covenant on the borrower and asking them to, hey, if you're gonna build this kind of community resilience center with my money, you should you should hire like worker-owned contractor. So we are looking for that kind of intentional funding partner who are willing to put that kind of covenant on their borrower. So again, we can only invest into co-ops, and I know there are not many co-op. But if you want to do some project, and if you are kind of non-profit or for-profit that is not co-op, you can still borrow money from these kind of CDFIs. So personally, there are so many great CDFIs in this region, and they are all my friends. So if you want to reach out to one of them, I can help you connect them. And in my personal capacity, I'm organizing this casual meetup for Seattle-based co-op curious or co-op practitioners. So we are gathering once a month, and we just talk about co-op, or sometimes we bring in guest speakers, and we do some site visit. But there is always something to do together. We are very tangible. So we are not gonna meet at brewery and just talk about social changes. We are always doing something. So if you are interested joining, I can add you to our listserv. This actually this is like actually Georgetown. It's an art studio owned by artists, and we visit them. So that was it. So do I have time for the? Yeah, if you have any question, comment, yeah.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's sort of sometimes considered the unsexy work. It's the most sexy work to figure out how do we actually like get things moving and support these ventures. And I so appreciate the accessibility that you offered to how do you support co-ops. So thank you so much, Mike. Make sure to screenshot here his contact information. And then I'm excited to welcome up Christine Hanna, who's going to speak to us about Rooted Northwest, of which I know nothing about, and I'm very excited to learn because the name is intriguing. So welcome, Christine, to the stage. Do you want to keep this here, or do you want to walk with it?
I'm going to walk with it. You can sit there for now.
Set it here for now.
I'm going to need just a second to get myself organized.
And
So if you all want to stand up or move around or stretch or whatever, that's
You
fine.
have your clicker there too?
Yeah, that's
and
good.
I'll just give you a little time when you're like 5 out, so you know.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Ooh, interesting. I've changed it, I think, since that was the first slide. I wonder if there's a refresh. We can stick with it. It's fine. I made a few changes, but there's nothing significant. The first one was a rainbow, but that's okay. We'll go with this. Oh, there we go. There's my rainbow. All right. Can you all hear me? Yes. All right. Good. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. I realize we're at the end of the afternoon, which in my household often means it's a little bit like sleepy time. So I appreciate you all being here, and I'll try to keep it lively. So this is a real picture of the land that I'm helping to steward up in Snohomish County. It was a double rainbow day, and it's kind of light in here, so there were 2 full-blown beautiful rainbows. And this is the site of what will be a regenerative farming community up in Snohomish County that I'm involved with a number of other folks in helping to build. Before I get into what we're doing up there, a little bit about me and why I'm standing here on this stage. I have been Boy, I counted the years earlier today. It's been 30 years that I have been working on localization and figuring out how do we localize our economies, our flow of goods and services, our relationships, capital, et cetera. And I've had the good fortune of doing that through a number of different organizations operating in this area and other places. Some of you might know some of them. Started in my nonprofit world was started at Sightline Institute, which had been Northwest Environment Watch for many years before we changed our name, operating within a bioregional Cascadia context, a sustainability think tank. Another is Seattle Good Business Network, an organization I co-founded in 2010 that supports local independent businesses. Truly 1,000 or more businesses are working within that organization around local production, local food, connecting eaters with producers, lots of work with the city and the port and the county and so forth to really connect our local economy. And then with Yes Media, publisher of Yes Magazine, was executive director there for 7 years up until last year, reporting on community-led solutions to systemic problems. So really, that again, that local community level of how do we solve the problems in our own communities and address those upstream challenges that we're facing. So when I ran across Rooted Northwest, which for me was a really sort of holistic approach that solved a lot of problems, it was really, I was on a personal quest to try to align my values with the way I was living and to demonstrate to my kids that there is another way and that they should not despair, because when you come together with people to build something, a new system, a new way of doing things, there is hope in that, and there is hope because of that. And I really wanted to demonstrate that and have that be something that they could take part in, and to see that they can put the work in too, and they will live a better life because of it, despite all of the things that are raining down on them as challenges in our world. So when I found Rooted Northwest, I sort of fell in love, really is what happened, and I decided to get involved. So you can go to the next page, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what it is. Oh, I guess I'm going to the next page, aren't I? Here we go, let's see. Dee-dee-dee. Top one? Side one? Here we go. Okay, Rooted Northwest. So the guy who, oh yes? Snohomish County, it's outside of Arlington, and I'll get into the details. You're going to get a lot of details, so hold on. Dave Bainline, who's this guy right here, he's one of the co-founders of the project. He would be here today, but he is teaching. He's a permaculture expert and teacher in permaculture, and he is creating new permaculturalists today, hopefully that will be seeding out throughout the Northwest. But Rooted Northwest is an effort that was started, envisioned in 2015 by two families, Dave and his wife Yuko, and Ed Jazerski and his wife Alina Quiroga, who had this idea of why is it that we can either have farmland or we can have housing, but we can't have both. And if we had both and we designed that housing in a way to really build community, that we could not only preserve farmland, but we could preserve farm livelihoods, and we could live in community close to the land and close to the people and close to the food that's nourishing us. And so the concept of Rooted Northwest has been around for a bit. They took some time to find some land. And, well, first, a quick problem. You all know this. Farmland is disappearing. The industrial agriculture systems that we have are destroying the planet and our bodies. Even if you want to be a regenerative farmer, it's very hard to do. The cost of land is expensive. There's a very steep learning curve. Of course, going it alone is hard on anything. It's especially hard as a farmer. Health epidemics and so forth. That's sort of one side of the problem. The other is that we've lost connection to each other in so many different ways. We all live, not we all, I live in a community in Ballard. I know some of my neighbors. I could count on them maybe a little bit, but it's not a community, not like I want and not like I've experienced before. And for those of you who have experienced what deep community is, it's a special thing and it's really priceless. And it's something that you have to work at and be intentional about. And that's what Rooted is. It's about intentionality. So the solution, a village, hub, and small-scale agriculture. This is an old solution. If you go to Europe, you'll see it everywhere. You fly over and it's it's evident as you look down that that's what's happening. And those were built before cars were a thing, before we designed around cars. So we couldn't find what they couldn't find what they were looking for, so decided to build it. A multi-generational community, preserving farmland, being an incubator and accelerator for small-scale regenerative agriculture enterprises, rebuilding the village. So, where are we, to your question? Here's Seattle. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this area, if you saw Cheryl Chen's presentation yesterday, this is the south end of the Salish Sea as it sort of seeps into the Seattle metropolitan area. And then up there where that red dot is where Rooted Northwest is. It's outside of Arlington. It's about an hour and 15 minutes north of Seattle and about an hour south of Bellingham, which is close to the Canadian border. Cascade foothills, you'll see pictures of the land in a moment. We acquired it in 2020. It's 240 acres, mostly farmland, some perimeter forest as well, and some open space. And it came with housing development rights, 70 housing development rights that we are clustering into 2 co-housing villages on the land. Okay, so to give you a little bit of context, because context is important in all this bioregional work, here's the farmland with the red line around it. And you can see it's mostly open land. It was a dairy farm, so that's mostly hay, perimeter forest. And you can see all around it. You see what's happening up all in there? It's zoned R5, which means 1 house per 5 acres. So that's what's happened to most of the farmland in this area. This is the largest contiguous piece of farmland left in this area. It's upland, which means it's not in a floodplain, which also makes it unique and special. And you don't have to get on a ferry to get to a major metropolitan food market, which is another criteria that the founders had. We love our islands, let me tell you that. But we were looking for something that could really support numerous small-scale farm enterprises. But point being, this land is at higher risk of conventional rural development, and it would have looked like that. And the farmer that was getting ready that was prepared to sell it, we had to pay a premium to get the land because we were up against other developers who wanted that land to do that. And that is what the farmland looks like. And if you have a chance to go up there, and you're welcome up, we do tours all the time, you too may fall in love. I'm just warning you. It's a beautiful spot. Who's been there? Anybody here been there? Okay, well, that's going to change. In fact, how fun would it be to host? Yeah, there you go. Jamaica's got the idea. Maybe one of these in a few years. We'll be ready for that. Okay, so you can see it's right up against the foothills of the Cascades. It's a gorgeous piece of land. Four sort of core principles of the design of the thing. The first is about community. So individual homes and common area, built around common areas, encouraging community, encouraging efficiency. We don't all have to have our own lawnmower, and many other things. And most importantly, human connection. There could be a whole presentation about co-housing because it has so many of its own interesting benefits and so forth. I'm not going to do that, but if you have questions about the co-housing model, happy to share more. But in general, the idea is a community design that encourages social interaction, but also allows for private space. So everybody has their own home. You have your own kitchen. You have your own little backyard if you want to use it in whatever way you want. But there's a common house, and that orange building there is the common house. The community is built around the common house and shared open space, fire pit, et cetera. We'll see some other pictures, renderings of the design in a moment. Agriculture is the second core principle, sited on farmland to provide farming opportunities, both to serve the community of 70 households, but also the larger area. I mean, this is not meant to be a bubble. This is not a cult or a commune. This is meant to be very integrated with the broader community that we're immediately situated within, but also the bioregion as well, as a regenerative farming hub and place of education and connection. The third is about regenerative practice in all the things that we're doing there, but especially about the land. So productive systems that heal the earth rather than damage it, and that heal each other as well. This is a small part of the land. This is what it looks like, but I long for the day when you walk around and it's all like this, and there are other kinds of animals, and there are animals and so forth right now, but there's also a lot of hay too, which is pretty in its own right. And then education is the fourth pillar of this, promoting land stewardship and regenerative agriculture techniques through demonstration plots, educational programs. There's so much shared learning that can happen. We're already doing demonstration programs through the Snohomish Conservation District and Agroforestry Northwest to figure out what can be done in the forest as far as agroforestry, what can be done in what's called wet feet areas where the land dips down a little bit and stays wet longer. Lots of cool stuff happening. And then the farmers themselves are super creative. So this is looking north toward the site of Village 1. Actually, let me go back a couple. There's two villages that I'm going to point out on this map. Village 1 it will be situated right here. And that one is the one that is most fully, that's furthest along in its development timeline, and the one that we're working on right now. And then the second village will be over here, which is a slope that faces west and looks across the farmland. It'll be a beautiful spot. Okay, so here we go. So we're looking north toward the site of Village 1. This is the layout of Village 1. It's 40 homes. You can see that they're clustered. Most of them are in fourplexes. And then there's the common house, the red house there. We have a handful of single-family homes as well. The red dots are the homes that are currently reserved. So we have 16 people who are committed home buyers right now for Village 1. This is renderings from the architect of what it would look like. These are not real, but they are good representations. We will not have solar on the roofs at the time of being built, because that's a very expensive add-on, and we're really we're already fighting costs in a major way. I'll get into that in a bit, but it will be ready. It'll be solar ready, so any individual home buyer can choose to add solar whenever they're ready to do that. That's a little close-up of the common house. Across the little pond. There's a nice bluff that's right there at the land. If you have kids who like to climb things. It's another view. Oh, look, there's some real people here. Okay. So once a month we have work parties. Where people who are living in the area who are either already committed to being home buyers or who are exploring that, or who are just friends and they want to come up and dig their hands in the dirt a little bit and be in community with people who share their values. And then we have a potluck afterwards for that. And this little building, we call it the early common house because we don't have our common house yet. But we live in the Pacific Northwest and it's wet and cold a lot of the time. And so this actually was an old barn that was on the property, and we just sort of converted it into a sort of a sheltered space with power and not exactly running water, but we have access to water. So, and these are some of the folks who are involved. Okay, so values. This is the other sort of piece of the kind of cultural pillars of what we're trying to do. I won't read the specifics of them. I'm going to go through the headlines here, and we can talk some more about them if you want. Autonomy with shared responsibility. So as Dave says, you can eat whatever diet you want, but you can't put chemicals on your lawn, for example. Ecological stewardship and resilience. We're talking about generational legacy here. We're talking about permanent resilience. Participatory governance. Get into that in just a moment. Inclusion. And I will say that there's lots of ways to define that, and we are working in all the ways that we have the ability to influence. We're working in a rural context far from urban centers, and so there are some challenges there, but there are ways that we're working on that. And then meaningful work. We also operate on the sociocratic governance model, and so would happy to share more about that. But the basic idea is it takes the best of democratic models and combines with the best of consensus models and sort of leaves the downsides aside. But it allows for fairly both thorough but efficient decision making. And anyone who's participating is involved in one of these circles. One of the circles has been empowered by the rest of the community to interface with sort of the outside world that needs more efficient decision making. And I'm a member of that circle. It's called the Development Liaison Circle. So when we're interfacing with financial institutions or legal institutions, we're empowered to be in those conversations and move those conversations along more quickly than having to go back to the community every time we have something that comes up. And then we keep the community informed. Anything that needs to be vetted more thoroughly with the community, we take a pause and make that happen. But if anyone who's tried to raise money or work within a development process with outside entities, but working internally with a participatory governance model, understands the challenges of that. And then we have farms. We have lots of farms that are working. So here's a little map of the land. These big kind of bluish purple spots are where the villages will be, and all the other colored plots there are farms that are actively working on the land. And in addition, we have some things going on, and some more sort of experimental things that are going on in the forest to see what we can do there in the understory. And then a lot of it, as I said, is under hay, and we have there's a local farmer who takes care of our hay for us. And then here's some of the people in the actual farms. Would you take a look at these carrots and beets? I mean, they're gorgeous. And then, I mean, what's right behind, yeah. Don and Steffi are doing medicinal and culinary herbs. We have Amelia with Kestrel Meadow Blooms, a flower farm. Jen and Jesse and their 2 boys, pigs, chickens, produce. Aaron and Dylan, Holman Family Farm. Aaron here is, his grandfather was a farmer, and he farmed it as a child and always wanted to get back to it. Actually, he told me, he's like, I swore I would never farm. He's like, but then it just kept showing up. It kept showing up in my life, and finally there was a day when he was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be a farmer. And there he is, and he is loving it. In fact, this year he's going to be able to go full-time farming, which is phenomenal. That's just it's a big milestone for a starting out farmer. And we have a blueberry farm that just got the first 30 rows of blueberry plants in. So not this year, but next year we'll be able to be picking blueberries at the farm. And we have ducks. And then we have a nice relationship with the tribes that are up there, Stillaguamish tribe and Tulalip tribes, and they have access to the land. And they do cedar bark harvesting for baskets and other things besides baskets as well. I saw some beautiful things at the Duwamish gift shop the other day that I wondered if the Stillaguamish are also doing. And then they do some demonstration and educational things there. They often come to the events that we have and support storytelling and song and so forth. Okay, development milestones. This is just kind of like where we are in our process. So we acquired the land in 2020. It was a great time to start a big project. But the land, this piece of land, which was really a unique opportunity, and they have been looking for a few years. They knew it when they saw it. Pandemic, we got to do what we got to do. But they had to rally some people, right? They were the 2 couples who initially came together. They brought in some other investors who are also going to be homeowners in the village, and then a local bank filled in the rest to acquire the land. And 2021 and 2022, a lot of pre-development work, which is essentially like, what can we actually do with this land? What do the water rights look like? Can we build what we want to build? More about that in a moment. The design, the testing of the soil, how hard will it be to do organic, et cetera, all of that work. It's engineers, it's consultants, it's permits, it's on and on, pre-development. 2023, a lot of the pre-development was lobbying. Because the land was zoned R5, we were not permitted to build what we wanted to build. They were like, townhouses in rural Snohomish County? No. Actually, the answer was, wow, we love what you're trying to do, but we have no legal way to say yes. No legal way to say yes. So there were folks on the Planning Commission who wanted to make it happen. There were folks at County Council that wanted to make it happen. So they worked during the pandemic when all the other stuff was going down, but they worked hard to eventually get an ordinance passed in 2023 that allowed for the clustered housing to preserve the farmland. So it's an ordinance that it was designed essentially to meet, I mean, we were in the room all the time, not me, other people, a guy named Merle Ash, bless him, in the room advocating for the kinds of design needs that we had to meet the goals of the overall project, both the preservation, but also the co-housing, right? They could have said, yes, you can do townhouses, but you still have to meet all of the rules around driveways and garages and, you know, a certain amount of land around each thing. I mean, we really pushed to convince them that the various features of the co-housing community was what was going to be best for the overall project, and they eventually agreed. In the end, we had to make some changes to make sure that the designs met the rural character part of the ordinance, because that was an important piece of that. So, and then we were ready with our application, like within 2 weeks of the ordinance being passed, and then that goes through its own process about a year. 2024, so December 2024, we got our preliminary plat approved for Village 1 and Village 2. So that gives us the path to actually go build. Now comes things like the money, which I'll get to in a minute. 2025, we just a few weeks ago, we got all the municipal water rights finalized, which is another big milestone. The land was actually a bunch of different parcels, some of which had rights, some of which didn't. There was a bunch of testing that had to be done. So we got the water rights finalized. We're getting ready to dig. We expect construction to start in 2026 and move in 2027. So that is where we are on that. Yes, thank you. Oh my God. Thousands of hours of volunteer time into this project, and lots and lots of money as well. Okay, moving on. Okay, total project cost, $47 million. It's a big number, but this is what it includes. 240 acres of the farmland, forest, and open space. All that design, engineering, consultants, taxes, permits, finance costs that I was talking about. It's totally undeveloped. We've got to put in water systems, roads, stormwater, sewer, power, broadband. Then there's the construction of the buildings themselves, the construction of the common house, which is critical to co-housing. There have been co-housing communities that didn't do the common house because they couldn't afford it right away, and then they never built it, and they did not get the community that they were looking for. Green efficient building. Doesn't add, it adds a little bit to the cost up front, but the long-term cost of operating is lower. So big cost. That cost equals the total price of 40 homes. So nobody's making a profit on this. Well, you know, the builders are making the profit that they need to make. The financiers are making the profit they need to make. Nobody who's initiated the project is making a profit on this. So the total price of the homes equals the total project cost. These are the representative prices of 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes. As you can see, it's not cheap. It's expensive. They're comparable to Seattle prices, but they're in Arlington. But they include the shared ownership and use of the common house, the common grounds, the farmland, the forest, the shared space, shared open space. So if you want to farm something, if you want to try something out, if you want to build a fort, if you want to do any of these things, you can do this on this land. And then, of course, community. I don't know how to put a price on that. However, it puts it out of reach for a lot of people, and it definitely puts it out of reach for farmers. So that's a big issue that we're really grappling with right now. We're talking with land trusts, we're talking with city, you know, we're talking with a bunch of folks to try to figure out how could we carve off 8 of these homes and make them affordable for farmers. And the reality is, what it comes down to is philanthropy, right? Like, we've got to cut the cost of those houses down by at least half to make them affordable for farmers. So that's something where, you know, it is out there. Like, that is what we would like to do. Village 2, there's an option there to design that in a different way that maybe is more affordable. But these are not luxurious homes. They look nice, but they're not fancy. The finishes are not fancy, you know. That said, homes for farmers aside, we are looking for investors to come in alongside the homeowners. So the home buyers are putting in their money, as they're putting it in all along the way, down payment that will go toward their down payment. There'll be a bank that comes in and provides a construction loan. And we need $6 million from impact investors to come alongside the homeowners to meet the equity side of that equation. And then the investors would get their money back at different milestones, and that is negotiable depending on the kind of impact that the investor is looking for. And the impact is that you'd be preserving 200 acres of farmland open space, supporting really dozens of farmers in their dream of having access to farmland, and the mutual support that's going on with the farmers. I didn't even get into that. The kind of collaboration that's happening already is really amazing. And then establishing a regenerative agriculture hub in Cascadia. And then as far as sort of mitigating the risk, because this is a risky project, we're trying to build something big. Investors, they can pledge now, but they don't need to participate, i.e. we don't need the funding until the time of the construction loan. And the construction loan is when the bank has already done all their due diligence. We've already got 30 buyers. They've checked everybody to make sure they can get a mortgage. All of the things are done for the bank, and that's when the investor can come in. So it's a pretty safe spot to come in. Again, as I said, joining home buyers to meet that equity threshold, and then flexible terms to meet your impact objective. So if you're a funder or investor, or you're just curious about it, let me know, and we can talk about it. Okay, this is one thing that we just talked about this. We would like to make this happen. We have lots of questions about how to do it. And then can I get through this one slide about the BFFs? Do we have time for that? Okay. Well, I've read the executive summary of the book. I've listened to some of the presentations here. I'm super excited about this idea of biofinancing facilities, because as someone who's been out there having conversations with more conventional lenders, even more conventional impact investors, it can be very frustrating to be a project that's working at sort of the edge of the current system, and just on the other side of that edge of the current system, and trying to convince investors that this is the right kind of project to be investing in. And what I'm facing, and what I think that a lot of other folks in the room might also be facing, a very opaque funder landscape. We don't know. We don't know who's funding this kind of stuff. We don't know. Very narrow impact metrics. So if you're an investor who's looking to save farmland, you might have a certain idea about how many acres you can save with your $100,000. And if you want to do that, then doing it in Cascadia, where the price of land is high, is not going to be where you want to invest. But what is the value of making this happen in Cascadia beyond your, the dollar per acre, right? The other is this question of who's in charge or who's on the hook. And the previous speaker brought that up in terms of the participatory governance model scares the heck out of traditional lenders. They want to know who's on the hook. And then short-term thinking. What's the return? What's the return when I get my money back? With BFFs, instead, we'd have matchmakers that connect initiatives with aligned regional funders, and holistic solutions that aren't just admired. People don't just say, "Oh, that's so cool," but they're actually funded. They have multiple returns, but the returns are showing up in different ways than a lot of impact investors are used to looking at. Funders that value participatory governance instead of fear it. And consideration of a project's long-term regenerative returns. I was really interested in the Centuries model of really looking at what is that long-term value that's happening here. Until we have BFFs, in the meantime, if you are someone who is interested in investing in things, the basic idea here is reach out to those projects you've heard about today, that you've learned about. Be curious. Go with your heart. Ask the good questions. But if it feels right, then there's something right about it, right? And advocate for more infrastructure so that more money will flow. And then if you want to learn more, we've got a great website at rootednorthwest.org. If you are someone who is like, I think I might want to maybe live there or check it out to live there, we have online info sessions twice a month. We also do land tours, and in the summer we have multiple events. If you are interested in the possibility of supporting the project financially as a funder or investor, you can talk to me. My email address is there. And if you want to do a land tour, contact Dave Bainline. He lives on the land, so he's up there every day, and he gives a great tour. So thank you so much for listening. Really, really appreciate your time, and look forward to more of this. Thank you very much, Jamaica.
Thank you so much, Christine. It's so inspiring to see, like, I've come from the village movement and seeing these grounded models of things people have been looking at and trying and in some instances doing for a really long time. It's really beautiful to see opportunities here in our own home region to really get involved. It's a beautiful model. Thank you so much. How are you guys feeling? We're at the end of this thing. Could you go another like 5 days, 5 minutes? Where are we at? I know it's a big conference. There's a lot happening in such a short amount of time. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, and I'm really excited to welcome a friend and a colleague in LA to the stage, Vincent Arena, who works with Catalyst, to help wrap us up in a good way. What we're really going to get into for this next session is how do we catalyze our collaborative potential? How do we harness this? I think sometimes we come to these experiences and we're inspired and there was all these points of potential connection, but often we're left that like one-to-one, let me follow up with that individual person. And I think as organizers, we know we have a responsibility to kind of capture the opportunities that exist and help facilitate more connection. Thank you so much. So that is one of the things that our friend Vincent here is going to help us do today. So come on up, Vincent. I'm really excited for this session. Thank you. You want it on your hand?
I think I might need both my hands. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So who here has made an incredible connection here this weekend? Raise your hands. Yeah, give it up for making incredible connections. And the event organizers, I think one of the most successful things about this weekend is just the quality and the sort of values of the people here. I think you could really like feel that we're all with kindred spirits. So the reason why I'm here right now is because, like you, I've been to many, incredible gatherings and events before where I was like, why can't this last for weeks or months? And so, tomorrow when you go home, instead of being, having this case of the Mondays, and some of you might be taking a flight out, what if there was ways to be able to get connected back into this community? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we might be able to do that and how we can, catalyze the potential in this room for collaborations, not only with the people that you have already connected with, but there might have been some incredible opportunities that you haven't had the chance to make yet. So one of the things that we did at 1 o'clock is we did a needs and offers mapping workshop, a very small one. And how that worked is that we had people, and Steve Melville right now is passing out these sheets. So it's a need or an opportunity sheet. And I'll pull one up. So for example, this is an offer from Phoebe, who's an impact designer, who's offering purpose-driven impact and graphic design. And so we're going to pass out these worksheets so you can choose, and you could take multiple sheets, but you're going to have the opportunity to basically share at least one offer or one request, something that you really need that you would love to be able to tap into this network to see if someone might be able to support. And once you do this, there's a QR code on the bottom right corner. So you can scan that after you filled out the sheet, you scan the code, you take a picture of this and upload it. And then we have a essentially digital wall of all these different opportunities that have been posted throughout the event. So networking for soil regeneration, expertise in data and environmental assets, offering a network for impact jobs. So we're trying to, by the end of today, have 100 opportunities that we can share out after this event with the whole network. And we have some really cool ways of being able to visualize this information to make it easier for you to connect with people that are relevant for you. So one of those ways is geographically. So, we've talked a lot about mapping, and so we have an actual map here where you can look at where these needs and offers are shared around the globe. So there's a few here on Salt Spring Island. There's also a chat tool. So let's say you were looking for like a particular need. If you said, can you let me know who can help me with soil restoration? This will go through the network of all the different needs and offers, and it'll pick out the ones that match for what you're looking for, and then you can click on those and it'll open up in the side the specific request that you're looking for. So this is Soil Sammy's Instagram page. And the last thing is that we're working on a Kumu map. So when you fill these out, also you can add in if your need or offer is related to your organization or a project, you can add that in. And we're starting to map out the different organizations that are represented here in the room. So here is a related list of some of the organizations that are here in the room. I'm sure you guys have been taking incredible notes, but having a place to go and just learn more about these different organizations, to figure out, are there organizations that are located in, your bioregion that you can go and visit after the event. And the last thing, which is really exciting, is that we are generating this dynamic knowledge graph, a Kumu graph, of basically the connections between all the different needs and offers that people are sharing here and the organizations and projects in the room. So this is something that you can go and check out. You can search. I will zoom in here on something in particular. Let's see. I don't have the full screen here, so let's see. That's okay. I'm not going to be able to show this, but basically, you can see here that these different needs and offers are connected. So for example, this is one of the opportunities that were shared in AI and regenerative finance, connected to an organization, and these are connected to the different roles that these organizations might play in the BioFi ecosystem. So with that, we're gonna take a few minutes now to reflect. If you don't have a need or offer sheet, raise your hand, and we'll pass those out. But yeah, think about what is something that if you could come into contact with someone in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the end of the day today, and there's something that would be like a golden connection for you that can really move your work forward, or if there's something that you have a huge passion and that you really can offer and that you would love to find someone to connect with, think about what that thing might be. And I'm gonna share a little sheet that can provide some inspiration. So on the bottom here is a framework that you might be familiar with, the 8 forms of capital for resilient wealth. And one of the things that we should think about as we are doing commoning and that we are building bioregional resilience is understanding that resilience does not only come from financial wealth, but resilience comes from us understanding the value that we have in not just our money and not just in financial capital, but in our intellectual capital, spiritual capital, social, material, living, cultural, experiential. So these are all different things that you have to offer that when you go into a room, even if you don't have $1 million to give someone, you have value that you can provide. And by mapping and understanding what value we have inside of a bioregion, we're able to create an economy where we're exchanging things without maybe even needing to get funding. Maybe you don't need funding, maybe the resources are here and you just need to connect with the right person. And so what we're gonna try to do is, build the infrastructure that can help us coordinate and collaborate and also get funding, but also be able to value all the forms of wealth that we need to create resilient economies. And so yeah, as you're reflecting on, a need or offer you wanna share, think about the 8 forms of wealth. Think about some of these different types of opportunities. These could be passions and interests. It could be resources and information. It could be something time sensitive like a job opportunity or a fellowship program. It could be a skill or a service, or it could be a perspective or knowledge or a best practice, something that you've experienced that you want to share with the world. So we'll leave about 4 or 5 minutes to reflect. You're welcome also to, reflect with the person next to you. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, I'll just go over the instructions again in case anyone needs it to add it to the wall of opportunity. And then I'm gonna pick about 5 people to share their opportunity out in the room. That's something that usually we would do like a 90-minute needs and offers workshop. So we're gonna do a little mini one before we wrap, and then you'll be able to see the entire directory of all the opportunities here right at the end of the event. So about 5 minutes. So I can speak to that. Yeah, I think before I'm going to see the instructions, I'm going to talk about the public or private and creating an account, and that if they create an account, they can edit it, and that also the image will have the source of truth, basically, but that having in the text fields makes it searchable and clusterable and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, is there anything else? I was going to put some music on. All right, everyone. Wrap up your last few words. You can always add to this later and submit this later, but for whoever's done now, I'm going to go over the instructions really briefly. Okay, so for all of you that just thought about your needs or your offers, on the bottom right corner, there's a QR code. So if you scan that QR code, it's going to open up this link. On the bottom left, there's two main settings for this need or offer. It could be shared publicly. So if it's shared publicly, then anyone can, with the link, can view your opportunity and be able to find it and reach out to you. There's another setting where it's private to only the members of this community who've been here present at this event. So when you load this link, there's going to be a pop-up to either log into your existing account or fill out these 3 fields to create a Catalyst account. You won't get any emails unless you check this, we promise. And once you sign up, you'll be able to edit your request. So it'll be owned by you and you can edit it. And then if you do choose to sign up, then you'll be able to see all of the private requests and offers that are shared only within this container. So you can choose to skip this and you can upload it publicly, but then you won't be able to update that information later. If you do include your email in the sheet, when someone responds to that need, that email is stored privately and you'll get a notification that someone has responded to your request or your offer. So yeah, if you want to upload, and then how it works is actually we use OCR to basically recognize the information in the sheet and parse it into the opportunity form. But if there are things that are incorrect, you could always go in later and update that. I know someone had mentioned that it might have recognized something incorrectly, so you can always edit it afterwards. Yes, did you have a question? That just means that's if you would like to get any email updates from Catalyst. Yeah. Yeah. And so basically this list, the wall of opportunities, so this is one list of information, and it's within a space that we created called Cascadia BioFi. And I think there's a really big opportunity, given all the incredible people and the incredible energy here, to start to take this energy and move it into not just something that exists here in this one time and place, but that actually can be energy that moves beyond this event to a community that can exist and thrive and prosper. And so one of the places in which that's possible is Catalyst, but we're also working on some incredible interoperability tools and protocols. So platforms like Open Future Coalition, Hilo. We just launched a Murmurations integration last week where you can upload public profiles for organizations or needs and offers to Murmurations, and then any platform that wants to use Murmurations can pull those into their platform. So this is one of the ways that we can enable these opportunities, the organizations, the knowledge that's generated within bioregions to be shared not only within a bioregion or within a certain platform, but across them. And when we're talking about mapping for impact and matchmaking, we want to make sure we have the best reach, and we can find the people we need to really connect and to catalyze collaboration. So yeah, basically, does anyone have any questions or anything with the QR code? That's a really good thing. I love that. No questions. Oh my gosh. No problems, no bugs. You have one, yes. Well, I could say something cheeky, which is I think every offer is a request in some way, right? Like if you're looking for a job, you're also offering yourself as, right, your services. But you can go in and edit that either by hitting edit request access, or on the top there's an edit button if you're logged in, and I can come over and take a look in a second if that doesn't work. 2 minutes, cool. Okay, I'm getting the signal to wrap up. Thank you all so much. This has been an incredible event. I'm gonna pass it to the next person, but I'm really excited about the potential for us to be able to take the energy from this event and take it on to the next one, and to be able to catalyze collaboration, not only within the Cascadia bioregion, but across the different organizations and bioregions that are also present here today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Vincent. You know, it's fun to have a lot of us that have been all working together for a long time, and I'm watching the ecosystem start to mature in common, and I just want to note, I think that's a healthful thing. It's kind of like a forest, watching sort of the young seedlings start to come into full maturity, and I'm just watching that with a lot of the projects and partnerships, and it's fun to meet new people and see what else is going on out there. So I really appreciate the opportunity to get us networked and connected, and just acknowledge that we're going to take a very short break because I'm looking for Taya, but we're coming to the end of the summit, and I think it's an interesting opportunity to sort of harvest and really acknowledge what have we experienced, what are our takeaways, what's the feedback loop, what's the opportunity to move forward. And I know that the organizers who've put countless hours, although they're not in the room right now, can we please give a hand to all of the organizers, the volunteers, our tech folks, people who've worked so hard to ensure that we could gather in a good way. And I just want to acknowledge the energy it takes to convene us and bring us together. But the organizers would like to come and just facilitate a harvest round as our closing. Actually, I think I see you back there, don't I? Are we coming in? So just noting that if you want to give just a moment, I'll find out where they are, but that's what we're going to do to close out the rest of our time together today, is harvest in a good way and integrate in a good way, and then hopefully cast the dispersion of these seeds in a good way and come back and see what we've grown together over the coming cycle. So hang on for just a minute, and we'll get the organizers here, and we'll wrap up in a good way today. Thank you for your continued time and attention.